Hello and welcome to Movies and Tea After Hours, and kind of a special bit of a bolt-on in the first of our two After Hours specials. On tonight's episode we are going to be looking at Dumplin, and as always I'm your host Elwood Jones, and joining me of course is our very own little Miss Quebec, Kim.
Hello.
As I said, tonight we're going to be looking at Dumplin from 2018, a coming-of-age comedy directed by Anne Fletcher, who's probably best known for giving us the likes of 27 Dresses and Step Up, and probably quite a few other movies that I've probably watched, maybe perhaps under gunpoint. But this is her first jaunt into the Netflix original, with a adaptation of the young adult novel of the same name by Julie Murphy, and starring Jennifer Aniston and Danielle MacDonald as a mother and daughter who get into a clash, and as Jennifer Aniston plays this former pageant queen turned pageant organizer whose daughter, Willow Dean Dumplin Dixon, who's quite nothing like her mother, both in temperament and form, decides that she's going to get back at her mother by entering a pageant and sending up the whole pageant scene, only to soon find that she's perhaps more into it than she'd like to admit. But Kim, I mean, had you seen Dumplin before this viewing?
No, I wanted to, but I never got around to it. It's one of those situations where Netflix originals are so accessible that you always put them back and back and back, and then you never get around to them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not like they're really going anywhere, is it? So you're kind of excited for them to come out, and then a lot of the time you don't actually get around to watch them straight away. I mean, just this evening, as of recording, I just finally started watching The Crown, you know, after like months of people just telling me that I should be watching The Crown. And the same goes to The Queen's Gambit, which eventually I will get round to. And it's a shame really, because I love the book The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis, and I was so excited to see the film version and for people to tell me it's good as well. And yet somehow in my mind, because it's a Netflix exclusive, you just put it right to the back of the pile. And so was the case with Dumplin, which I'd heard good things about. And as we've obviously in our season 6 been looking at female directors of note, it seemed like a good idea to just sneak in another couple of directors with our After Hours section, and obviously the first of those being Anne Fletcher, who, as we said already, she's known for producing a lot of very easy viewing. She did Step Up, she did 27 Dresses.
Things right up my alley.
Yeah, she did The Proposal, which I think I remember watching, but I can't remember a damn thing about it. And she did The Guilt Trip, which used to always be on in like the TV office at work. So she can also be credited as being the choreographer for both Tank Girl, Casper, and Buffy, which is really surprising. Her choreographer credits are really a lot more interesting than her actual directorial credits. Not to obviously take anything away from her, because I mean, she did choreography for Step Up 2, The Streets. She did, just going for the list now, Titanic, Anastasia, Boogie Nights, A Life Less Ordinary, Flintstones, The Mask. It just sort of goes on and on. Just
Bring it on.
Yeah, it's just all these really surprising things. A lot of them you wouldn't think that they would need a choreographer, but apparently they did. Like 6 Feet Under. Can't really remember a lot of dancing in that series, but
there's a lot of different things, and you have like there's a lot of little things here that doesn't seem like it needs choreographers really, but I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting little thing. I guess it's choreography isn't really the moving of things around different elements or something.
I imagine, because I'm looking at these and I think I remember like little dance sequences, because they weren't just like big dance numbers. Obviously The Mask has got the club dance sequence, and Buffy has got Once More We're Feeling, which obviously has lots of singing and dancing. I had no idea what the singing and dancing Boogie Nights is, but I'm sure it's there. The horizontal limbo or something, I don't know. And the pacifier. Where's the dancing in the pacifier? I do. I think there's a musical number in there. Okay, right. Before we obviously spend the whole evening questioning Anne Fletcher's credits here, but yeah, I mean, this is a tale very similar to Little Miss Sunshine in the fact it's a satire of sorts of the pageant scene. I don't know if it's something that you have any interest in at all, Kim.
Well, I mean, considering on your other podcast before we started this one, we had talked about Little Miss Sunshine as part of a double feature. Yeah, I really love Little Miss Sunshine. So this is one of those, one of those movies that when I started watching it, that was one of the initial thoughts that I had. Because essentially what it is it's someone who's unlikely to be in a pageant, who's joining a pageant to fulfill whatever thoughts they have in their mind, whether it's to fulfill, in this case, it's her aunt's dream, and to kind of fight against her mom a little, who doesn't seem to approve of her.
Yeah, I mean, with the character Willow Dean, I mean, obviously she's a larger girl, and she, with her mother was always, she always feels she's like too busy with her pageants, and that she's constantly judging her about her weight and is embarrassed, basically, by her daughter, in the same way that she's embarrassed by her mother's pageant world. She sees it as a lot of like pomp and ceremony and the whole world being rather fake. So the two have a very sort of clashing view, and it's how a lot of her sort of confidence was derived from her Aunt Lucy, who was also a large lady, and introduced her to the music of Dolly Parton, which is a huge part of her life. She's absolutely obsessed with Dolly Parton, as is her friend Ellen, who the two just from childhood into teenhood just obsessed completely over Dolly Parton. And it's really that they basically just decide that they're going to enter this pageant and they're going to make this statement by forming their revolution against the pageant scene by entering it, and along the way teaming up with two other girls. You've got Hannah, who's a sort of an edgy feminist, and you've got Millie, who's kind of like very similar to Willow Dean in the fact that she's also a large girl, but she's got this naivety to her where she's just constantly happy. She never lets anything get her down yet, and she also joins in on this plan to sort of like make this huge statement by entering the pageant and being like the complete opposite of what many people would think, you know, a pageant girl is. So if you like Dolly Parton, you're in luck, because there's a lot of Dolly Parton on this soundtrack.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not a really big Dolly Parton fan, as in like I'm not. I always know that I've heard her music,
yeah,
and I like it when I listen to it. So for this one, I really thought it had that feel-good element, especially since most of the soundtrack is really revolving around her music to fit every single situation that she's going through, whether she's listening to it on the radio or talking to her friend or whatever. It really does add quite a bit, because, you know, you add on to that kind of I mean, Dolly Parton is I don't know it very well, so I could be wrong, but my impression of Dolly Parton is a lady who's very, very confident about herself. You know, she doesn't have these ideas of being, you know, of judging other people or being judged or whatever for, you know, she's kind of like this flamboyant little lady type of thing. I think that's really what it is when her Aunt Lucy introduced her to Dolly Parton, it was more of kind of introducing this kind of positiveness about not being scared about how other people view you and being confident. And it's these kind of little thoughts that I think she goes through and she kind of maybe loses a little when her aunt passes away. Over this year that she's passed away, she's really trying to, I don't even know if it's a year. I think it's maybe a few months or something.
It's about 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months, right? And they were talking, and you start seeing that she's starting to kind of doubt herself a little, because without this constant Aunt Lucy figure who's giving her all this confidence that she usually would have about not caring about everything around and kind of just being in that little world, now she has to face this world on her own. And when, you know, she decides to do this revolution, and she has this different views with her best friend, Ellen, and she's left alone. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of a bit like Edge of 17 when we talked about it, how when you break out of something, you kind of team up with other people and you kind of start seeing the world and discovering different things. And I think it's kind of like she loses herself and she kind of finds it back a little by the end.
I definitely saw the Edge of 17 comparison throughout this film, and in many ways it felt like the film did the same sort of mistake with Edge of 17, where we have like the best friend and then we fall out with the best friend. And certainly with this one, it felt, especially the fact that because you got the best friend who fits more into like the traditional pageant mode, to suddenly like whip her away because she like fits in with the popular girls. This felt the same in Age of 17. We take away the best friend, and it felt like, no, why are we taking away the best friend? This is sort of like such an anchor of what the film's based around, like this friendship of these two girls, and we're taking it away for just a minor argument. And it frustrated me the same way that it frustrated me in Age of 17, but in the same way you kind of know that you have to have that division for the film to sort of progress, to give us conflicts. And
it was necessary because in this one, rather than even the other one, it was in like Edge of 17 comparison, this one it was even more needed because of the fact that her best friend is a pretty girl. She's kind of like as in her mind, she believes she's the type of girl who doesn't understand this revolution because she's one of those girls who is pretty and fits into the pageant appearance, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that. And when she teams up with these other two girls, who's Millie and Hannah, they're both outsiders. And you can see it from their appearance of just her exploring this new world where Millie kind of teaches her a little about not really caring. Her only worry is how her mother cares about, protecting her when she doesn't want to be protected. She just wants to do what, makes her happy. Whereas, Hannah is kind of a mystery because you don't really know why she's there, why she even signed up in the first place. But she ends up having this feeling of just where she's there because she's fighting the concept of patriarchy or something like that. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah,
she has some big revolution. But, I mean, I'm a little bit blinded because I really, really love the actress who plays, I shouldn't say actress, I guess, because she's supposed to be non-binary. But I really like Bex Taylor Klaus as like just in all her performances she's done before. I've seen her in TV series before and stuff like that. And she always plays this kind of like same appearance. Appearance-wise, it doesn't change too much, and that sort of personality doesn't change too much. But she has this really cool attitude. It reminds me a little bit like Ruby Rose, where I like her for the way that, I think, is it Ruby Rose? I forgot. Is that her name?
Yeah, I think there's the one that she talked about.
Yeah, Ruby Rose. And it's just kind of like this really cool attitude where she's doing this, like this character of Hannah is doing this, where she's also trying to break out of something. But in the end, I think what she finds out of this is really their friendship, I think. Like, what she gets out of it is her personality changes a little as she interacts with these girls.
Yeah, definitely so. I think the interesting angle the film obviously takes is the fact that these four girls, they enter into the pageant scene thinking that it's going to be like Mean Girls, they're going to be like us versus the pretty popular girls, and everyone's going to be really bitchy and whatnot. And instead, what the film presents is that the pageant girls aren't at all bitchy at all. They're very welcoming to these girls entering. They're slightly confused as to why they're there and to what their goals is, but ultimately they find this joy in competing and this shared experience that they have together. And as I said, they each have their weights. As you said with Hannah, I mean, she's there to make this big sort of feminist statement, and she sees herself as like basically that this group, they're Spartacus, and the pageants like the Roman Empire, they're going to take it on. She's kind of very much portrayed from the start as being like the loose cannon of the group. So you're never sure which way that they're going to go, but as it obviously goes on and they realise that they've got to sort of pull it together, and in particular they team up with a group of drag queens who perform a Dolly Parton drag show at a bar that Aunt Lucy used to hang out at. That it all magically comes together for the big finale, which I think the film was kind of losing me in the lead up to the actual pageant scene, and once we get into the actual pageant itself, that it sort of really was when the film sort of really grabbed me and it all came together, because it felt a very sort of like a little hit and miss up until that point for myself. It has some interesting ideas, and certainly a lot of these characters are very fun to be around, such as Millie, who's just every time she's on the screen is just delightful, and to see her like really sort of like come out of her shell and just be like this absolute, pull out this amazing sort of diva performance and sort of stand up to her sort of church-going mother. I thought it was just her journey was really interesting as well, even though it's a lot more subtle than the other girls that are in it. But yeah,
I mean, for sure. There's a lot to like about these girls in particular. Mostly, I mean, they have this kind of element of, I think they just all kind of mesh really well together in personality and just how they're shown, right? I mean, by the end, I really love that moment in the pageant where it was just the opening act, and then Hannah goes as she's walking by and just she twirls Millie around. I thought that was so nice. It was such a nice touch to that whole scene.
Well,
just being able to break out of their norm of this pageant who's so strict on all the rules and having everything prepared in advance and all that sort of thing, and then they're just and then they get this moment, and it's really, really touching to watch. I don't have the same issues, I guess, with the beginning. I think the beginning is really a lot of setup just for everything to happen. I don't know. I guess it's because in some ways, I mean, I was never a big girl, but in kind of like the Chinese kind of mentality, I can kind of relate because I am considered big for a Chinese girl, especially when I was, especially in my teenage years.
Hey?
Yeah, so...
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, I had a lot of judgment from family, and I had a lot of judgment from, not from friends so much, because my friends were not like popular kids or anything. We all kind of didn't see that part as much. But with all that, there's always this kind of self-confidence thing. So I guess in some ways I kind of connected to some of these characters, in the sense that you sometimes feel like you don't fit in. And a lot of it is, I think, how you think about yourself. And that's one of the main points of the story that I really, really like, especially when, we're talking about, she has this boy who likes her, and it's this, I don't know, cook?
Bo. Yeah, she's
whatever, at Harpy's, this I don't know, this diner, and Bo is this, I don't know, he's not very frequent there, but he has this scene where he makes a really good point, after she kind of like kisses him and then runs away because she's self-conscious about herself, and then she confronts him, and then he's like, oh, I like you, and then she's like, but why, and then he's like, he tells her about how he thinks she's beautiful, and then he makes the point of, but it's not important what I think. And that's a really good point. I think that's really important, is that whenever it's not someone else's, I think that's the point of the whole movie, is it's not how someone else sees you, but finding yourself. And of course, that's the essence of a coming of age movie, right? In the end.
Yeah, I mean, the love angle with Bo, it's a little left field. It doesn't quite perhaps work, but I mean, he does obviously make a convincing argument for why he is interested in her, because he's a man of exceptional taste. And yeah, as I said, he's just the sort of like, he's the good-looking fry cook, and you wonder why he's when he goes on, initially takes Willard in on this date to go and do stargazing in the back of his pickup. It's that part of the world where you go and take your date out and pickup. And I still can't get with the fact he's called Bo. It's just so country for myself.
Well, this is a country.
I know it's a country thing, but just the fact he's called Bo. It's
full of southern accents.
I know it just a little too much like it just brings to mind too much of Cam or Modern Family, and his part of the world. So, and every time he's like going about Bo, it just made me think of Modern Family a lot. But yeah, he's obviously played by Luke Benwood. I don't know, he's not traditionally good looking, but apparently we're told that he is good looking. As I said, I'm not the target audience of this movie, so I can't say whether he sort of works as a love interest or not. Wasn't doing anything for myself, so I don't know about yourself, Kim. But
I mean, I don't really think like he's not my cup of tea personally, but I can see like Coke. It's not. I don't really think it matters in that sense that who plays this type of person, right? But he's considered to be good looking. I guess he has a bit of charm to him. I don't know, but I mean, I don't really,
I suppose it depends on like how much Southern Fry cooks do it for you.
Yeah, pretty much. But either way, the point is, I don't. The point is, he's in the movie really little, so it doesn't really matter what he looks like. His point there is that it is really the point of kind of how she faces herself at the end.
Yeah.
I think that's the point of his character. So in reality, his character is more of a convenience, meant to be there for a purpose. I don't know, but he doesn't really have any actual. I don't know. He's kind of a really one-dimensional character. He's really there for one purpose, and then that's it. We know nothing about this character.
Yeah. Someone I want to really talk about in this movie, and they're just an absolute revelation, the performances, and that's Jennifer Aniston. When I think of Jennifer Aniston, and you think of how far she's come from obviously being on Friends, and just the actual interesting career that she's had, and as she goes as matured as an actress, to put it nicely, she's only becoming more interesting for myself. She's always had interesting roles. I mean, she was obviously in things such as like Office Space, and I want to say Birthday Girl, where she's always had like these interesting roles in doing indie movies, and at the same time she's had like mainstream roles, because she was always like the most popular one out of the Friends cast. So it was always a case that we knew she was going on to do interesting things. I was just always it's just the fact that she's obviously got older, is that she's only become more interesting as an actress, and certainly here she's absolutely fantastic. I was completely blown away by her performance here. I thought it was really great. Her playing the role of this former pageant queen, who's in many ways fighting for these ideals that she believes in, and at the same time trying to invoke this confidence in her daughter. As I said, I just thought it was just a really fantastic performance from her throughout. So
I agree. I mean, her character itself was pretty decent. In reality, I mean, she's not. I think in reality, the daughter Willowdean.
Yeah.
She really just saw. She felt like her mother was judging her and that sort of thing. But in reality, if you looked at the movie and how it was portrayed, it wasn't like the mom character Rosie was really not willing like to show her to her friends or to the people that she knew or that sort of thing. In her mind, she's just less considerate in that sense. Obviously to her it's a sign, maybe it's a sign of affection or whatnot, that she calls her Dumpling, and she doesn't think about it out of habit, and it kind of embarrasses her. But then, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of our parents embarrass us anyways. Maybe not in that way, but
yeah, I mean, as I said, she obviously calls her Dumplin this term of affection, but obviously because of her being a larger girl, she sees it as a mother having a dig at her about her weight, and I think it's, as I said, it's just this. It's just
a misunderstanding.
Yeah, and it's just fantastic the fact that you have these two people who are both coming from opposite ends of like their feelings on what pageants are, and yet they somehow meet in the middle just through through pageants. They neither one has to like admit they're wrong, which is what normally happens in these cases. They both like see the other person's point, just and it's, as I say, it's through pageants. And I think, as I said, when we think of obviously pageants, we look at how they're obviously portrayed in other forms of media. It's always like this very sort of tacky sort of affair, and young girls being gussied up and whatnot. But here, I mean, as I said, it's just seen as this, this small town thing where for these girls, they get dressed up in fancy dresses and look pretty and perform talents and things. And it's not seen as like a negative thing. It's just this small town tradition that her mother's obviously very heavily involved in. So they did make me wonder what skill I would bring for like the talent portion of a pageant.
Did you finally figure it out?
No, I haven't a clue. I mean, all my skills, nobody really wants to see me eat. I mean, it's more like eating, sleeping. It's like, these aren't things people need to pay to see me do. So what would you bring to your pageant performance, Kim? Because you obviously got many skills. I mean, you can sing and play an instrument and things. So,
well, yeah. I mean, I won't say that I'm excelled at any of those things. I can pass by, and I've done performances of both of those things, but nothing like on competition level. So maybe, I mean, if I was ever in that situation, it probably would be singing, because I mean, I wouldn't think piano would be my forte unless it's playing like a classical piece or something.
Yeah.
But
any sort of go-to songs, or
they would be like Chinese songs mostly. I sing mostly Chinese music. I have some English songs, maybe like some Celine Dion. I don't know.
A Canadian singing Celine Dion. Who'd have thought?
No, I like other stuff, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I've been listening to a lot of Chinese music lately, so I can't remember right now.
You're still responsible for getting that damn cat song stuck in my head for months on end.
That cat song?
Yeah, the one that goes meow 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 meow.
Oh, yeah, that.
I can't know the rest of the words because it's all in Chinese, or Mandarin or Cantonese.
Yeah, Mandarin.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's always such a crapshoot whenever I say like, "Oh, is it Mandarin?" I just like so ease it out there. But yeah, as I said, it was just kind of refreshing to see that it wasn't lots of like, oh, we're gonna have like the mean girl situations with like the pretty popular girls, and we're not gonna see the pageants as being this trashy thing. I thought it was very sort of interesting thing. I mean, the fact that they crammed so much Dolly Parton in the soundtrack. I mean, she was heavily involved in the soundtrack, was really great. And I mean, yes, it's not a bunch of deep cuts in the Dolly discography that you're going to have here. It's all very much the hits that we're going with. So it's sort of like when they do like their pop quiz questions to each other, it's sort of like, wow, this is as the Dolly Parton super fans, you're going to throw a 9 to 5 question out there. But I gave it a pass because I like 9 to 5. I think it's a great song. So
yeah, me too. That's probably one of my favorites, Dolly Parton. It started playing, and I don't even know the name of the song most of the time, but I've heard it so many times. Like, this is the one that really I probably listened to the most in the past. Like, I don't know, on the radio or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the movie is surprisingly feel-good. I know that it's categorized as like a coming-of-age comedy, right? I didn't really feel the comedy so much as the feel-good element. Like, I don't know if I laughed a lot, but I feel like I had a lot of fun.
I laughed during the training montage where she's learning magic, how to perfect her like magic performance with.
That's why we don't get good things.
Well, yeah, with Gingy Mingy. I was like, just when it says the line, it's like, this is why we can't have nice things. I just laughed so hard at that, and I don't know why.
You would, because that's something that you say all the time.
This is why we can't have nice things. And in particular, I think because Ginny Mingy reminds me of Bunny Galore, who I've been watching present a bunch of really bad movies on Showtime over here in the UK. So, like Wild Women, The Wongo. I'm still gonna watch that when we finish this. So that'd be a treat. But yeah, I mean, this film. I can't see myself like entering into like heavy rotation for myself. I don't think it's really sort of won me over to that extent. But at the same time, it wasn't a bad experience. Certainly coming off the reef, it was even better. So, but how did you sort of ultimately find it then, Kim?
I mean, I had a lot of fun with it. It's my type of movie. I don't think it'll be like as in frequent rotation as other movies I like that like that I have on background. But what really does help a movie is its soundtrack. And for this one, the reason to rewatch it is really the feel good element, and the Dolly Parton soundtrack. Like I don't have to deliberately look for Dolly Parton and then still listen to her music.
I was sure Dolly Parton put a cameo in this because when we have the drag queens on the stage, I was sure that one of them was Dolly Parton, but it's not. It's actually not. It's just someone who just looks really like Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
But as Dolly Parton says, and as it's quoted in the film, "If I wasn't a woman, I would have been born a drag queen." In one of her many great quotes, including my other personal favorite, "It takes a lot of money to look this cheap." So, if you want a really good deep dive, though, just look up Dolly Parton on Wikipedia and just like her whole career and life choices and feminism and philanthropy, and it's just absolutely fascinating. There's so much depth to that woman. You think she's just this country legend, but there's like so much more there that you don't even like realize. So
yeah, but that's the thing. I think that's why using her as a focal point to revolve this movie around kind of her music and her philosophies and the things that she believes in to instill kind of confidence into these girls. It all kind of celebrates this kind of, I guess, individualism, that sort of idea of just having your own character and being proud of who you are and confident in who you are, no matter what you look like or you know, whatever way you choose, I guess.
And yeah, definitely. Because I mean,
I think in the end, it's a really positive type of message, and I think that's one of the best things about Dumplin that I really like is, as the world is really crazy right now, I feel like feel-good movies like this is really worth it because, you know, the world, probably judging from the U.S. elections results, the America has never been so divided as in the last, I don't know, 10 years or whatever, but I don't want to get political here. So it's really nice to see movies like this come out, which instills this kind of positive message during, you know, both our COVID-19 times of craziness when we're stuck at home and in lockdowns and you know, high alert, high stress levels, at the same time as, you know, whatever else is going on in whatever country you're in or that sort of thing. And movies like this, I think, really achieves that purpose of really, you know, entertainment and feel good. I mean, for me at least, I had a really great time. I always it actually surprised me how much I liked it, considering it was about beauty pageants.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised, as I said already, just the angle it took, because I thought when you say beauty pageants, it is, as I said, it's going to go the one way, but even by the end of when we get into the end of the beauty pageant sort of sequence, and these girls have sort of fully embraced the process, they haven't exactly changed themselves, which is what you expect. You expect them to obviously have, like, changed and conformed, but no, they're just themselves. They're just, as I said, their pageant form. So even when we look at our tough feminist chick, she's might not be wearing a dress, but at the same time she's doing her form of pageant. And as she says, it's sort of like, who knew that pageantry was such a fun team sport? And I think that's what it becomes more about at the end. It's just these girls coming together, having fun, and just enjoying their pageant experience, whatever it may bring. And I mean, yes, I'm not going to actually ruin the ending now. I was going to say something more about the ending, but I'm not going to ruin the ending of the film and say about who wins and whatnot, because I think that's for other people to enjoy. So
yeah, But I think another thing that I really like about the movie as a final thought on it is really girls being in peace with each other. I know you made a point before about, mean girls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing, is a lot of movies show this separation, how women are, just not very team players type of thing, like something happens and you have cat fights and you have whatever type of, jealousy or girls against girls. But in reality, in a world where it should be something that should be promoted, even in real life it happens, women are very tough on women. And it shouldn't be like that. There should be this kind of unitedness. I've always said that, I'm not completely feminist, so I don't have a lot of these different, but I do believe that in a world where, especially because I work in an office full of ladies, I really believe that women should be nice to other women. Work together as a team instead of, pushing each other down or stepping on each other to get to higher points. Pageants is just the first step. And, we have seen other pageant movies in the past, Miss Congeniality or something, which is really about, bringing everyone together. But, I don't know. I just really think Dumplin is a really good movie. It shares a lot of very positive messages, whether it's about individualism, feminism, all the points we've talked about before. So yeah, really, really good movie.
Yeah, definitely. Just so if I would touch upon your point, I was very surprised when we had introduced the obvious pageant, Queen Bee. The blonde girl whose name sort of eludes me at the minute. I was sort of fully expecting her to be just like this real bitchy character, but she's not. She's really not at all, and I think everyone you see it from that opening sort of dance practice, just how sort of welcoming everyone sort of is to these girls, even though they're not too sure of their actual motives of being there. I think out of all of them, it's Dumplin's mum who's obviously the most suspicious of why her daughter's involved, let alone her friends. So, and I just like the fact that she just never dissuades the daughter from doing it. She just always says it's sort of if you're gonna do this, you're gonna be prepared because this is tough. It's not as easy as you think it's gonna be. And she just takes this constant professional stance. And even at the end, it's sort of she wants to give her daughter a pass, and her daughter's like, no, we're gonna do this by the pageant rules. You're not gonna have to change your position just because you're my mother. So it was really, I was really invested in the film by the end. So, but the lead up to it was a little rocky for myself, but it sort of pulls it all together by the end. So, but yeah, as a throwaway piece of viewing, I thought it was very enjoyable indeed. So, should we do further viewing?
Sure.
Okay, further viewing. What would you pair with this, if anything?
Well, you mentioned it right at the beginning. Definitely Little Miss Sunshine is a really great one to pair it with.
Yeah, definitely.
Other than that, this director we had talked about before, but she was also assistant choreographer on Hairspray, which I also think is a really great one to pair with this.
Are we talking about the John Waters or the remake, though?
The remake, the 2007 one.
Okay.
Yeah. I really like that one, so
okay.
It's one of my personal feel-good favorites as well. I also mentioned Miss Congeniality, which is not really the same angle, but it's an interesting one. I don't know. I haven't watched Miss Congeniality in a really long time, but I really like Sandra Bullock, so I think that's a good one to throw in there. But other than that, Netflix Originals has been working a lot on these kind of, I don't know, girls that are unique. I don't know. How do you call it? Another one that I didn't really like so much, as much as some of the other Netflix originals about coming of age and that, but it's a good one to kind of pair with this one, and that would be Sierra Burgess is a Loser.
Okay.
Which is about a girl who kind of who likes this really popular guy. And she ends up asking a pretty girl to catfish him. Where she is talking to him on messages, but her the pretty cheerleader girl or something is the one who goes and sees him, that sort of thing. Yeah, so it's an interesting little plot about, you know, I guess facing yourself, I guess having confidence to show yourself as who you are, type of thing.
Great. For myself, another sort of send up of the pageant scene would be Drop Dead Gorgeous. It's a mockumentary about again a small town pageant featuring the likes of Denise Richards and Kirsten Dunst. It's a really fun black comedy, and just as I said, it's just a really fun send up of the whole pageant scenes, and just really sort of plays everything completely for laughs. It's not, as I said, it's not got such a touching sort of view on the pageantry scene. It's just, as I said, it plays up of all its wonderful quirks just for maximum laughs, really. The other one I want to sort of pair, it's nothing to really do with pageants, but even though pageants do feature in it, and that would be Whip It from 2009, featuring Ellen Page, about a pageant girl who discovers the world of roller derby, and in turn learns more about herself as she joins her local roller derby league, based down in Austin, much like this film. So, and yeah, those would be my two. I mean, you obviously mentioned Little Miss Sunshine. Little Miss Sunshine, I think, is sort of like a really good film to sort of pair with this or anything. I think I love Little Miss Sunshine. I mean, no matter how, when we watched it in our very first hangout that we did together, I want to say first or second. Second. We did this, and we did Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. So again, it goes with many things, but Little Miss Sunshine it only has, you know, that it obviously got the younger girl who's sort of like a little more sort of odd sort of entrance into the pageant scene, but it also has, like, you know, the family discovering themselves through the pageant scene as well. In particular, it gives Steve Carell has that big speech about Prowse at the end, which is just like one of my great life lessons in life. Whenever I'm feeling a little blue, just to look back at that and realize, you know, things are pretty good. So, but yeah, those are mine. I mean, there are obviously other Netflix exclusives on there, which I suppose you could put in with this, such as like Tall Girl, which I've yet to watch, but everyone keeps wanting me to watch it now that I've seen Dumplin.
Yeah, so. Tall Girl kind of matches it as well. I personally, like, my issue with Tall Girl was the same that I had with Sierra Burgess is a Loser. So both of them are movies that I haven't gone back to rewatch, but I mean, I personally prefer Sierra Burgess, and I had to go back. Tall Girl I didn't really like too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that obviously brings us to the end of tonight's episode. Thank you as always for listening. If you haven't done already, please do hit the like and subscribe buttons wherever you happen to be listening to us. And you can check out our full archive of episodes at moviesandteapodcast.wordpress.com, where you can find access to all 6 of our previous seasons, including our After Hours specials and bonus episodes. You can also find our other fun bits of writing, including our Friday Film Club, where each Friday myself and Kim both pick a film to highlight, and sometimes the theme, sometimes it's not. Either way, it's a chance for us to talk about more movies that we love and to share them with you, our wonderful listeners. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and as I said, wherever you happen to listen to us, please do hit the like and subscribe button, as it all helps raise the profile of the show. And leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show, as we all love to hear what you think of these episodes. But Kim, it is your turn to pick next, so what would you like to look at?
Yeah, so the next one, we're actually in the same year, 2018's also Netflix original book adaptation of the same name, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which is directed by Susan Johnson.
Yeah, fantastic. Another first time watch myself, so that will be fun. Am I right in thinking they've done sequels to this one?
They have one sequel, but it's not by the same director.
Okay.
So that's why, I mean, we could have done a double feature if you want, but we'll
see how it goes for the next episode.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see how you feel about the first movie, and then we'll we'll talk about further.
We'll see if I made it onto the second one. Let's see if I make it to the show at this point. So, maybe it be next week. It might just be the Kim show. But that's all coming up on our next episode. But thank you as always for listening. Thank you to my co-host Kim, and we'll be back next time to check out To All the Boys I've Loved Before. But until then, good night.